Mouth breather. A Sparglix, Equad, and a Waxaboon walk into a bar. Permit me to explain. As usual, the periodic trips that I take out to the grocery store to get supplies are, so that I can stay at home and shelter in place, as we're all legally mandated to do in the name of the common good, or else. These are sources of fertile inspiration for this otherwise largely dead YouTube channel, and today it was not the walk across a parking lot carrying a triple handful of groceries, triple armload of groceries in order to get enough food back home to justify spending $2 on bus fare, which may not sound like a lot, but I have no source of income, so it really adds up fast. It was not the trip itself that inspired me in this case. I didn't see anything other than a couple of vagrants who gave me vague thoughts on the subject of whether a person who asks you for something can be trusted to accept no for an answer. But other than that, didn't get much out of it. So the source of inspiration instead was a book that I was reading on the bus on the way there. My mother gave me this book at Christmas because she categorically refuses to listen to me when I tell her that I own too much crap, I can never get rid of anything, and therefore I legitimately would prefer if she gave me literally nothing for Christmas every year, but she is incapable of doing it. She has this ridiculous psychological compulsion to engage in the cultural ritual of gift exchange, which she can't really afford to do a good job of, but she insists on doing the poor job that she's able to manage because she has been so thoroughly brainwashed by our culture to believe that this ritual has meaning. Anyway, so she gave me this book, which is a beginner's primer on how to play role-playing games. Now, since the second video I ever recorded and several others since then, second through fourth and a couple of others have all been about role-playing games, it should be obvious to anyone who follows this channel, all the millions of you that there are, that I don't particularly need a baby's first how to play role-playing games, but this is I gave this book a chance and decided to see if it was worth anything. And while it's not completely worthless, it does somewhat exhaustively detail certain thoughts that are... I'm a big believer in the concept of reevaluating what you take for granted, and so going back to basics and doing a from-the-ground-up review is not a bad thing. But in with the semi-exhaustive reviews of these topics, there's also a lot of what I would characterize as postmodernist garbage, very much of the kind that is being used to indoctrinate the young, blank-minded, mentally unwary people of the world to believe in the agenda of the real-world counterparts to the New World Order, who I talked about in a video a while ago. The people who believe in shaping the minds of the next generation to believe a version of the truth that is not the version of the truth that they would have naturally come to if they had been left to their own devices, and that's all I'll say about it for now. An example of the postmodernist crap in this book is we all know that gay marriage is a reality now, but there's a difference between it being recognized as a legal option for anybody who feels compelled to engage in it, and people attempting to rewrite the language of our culture in order to pretend that gay marriage is a totally normal thing. And if you're triggered by the word normal, put a pin in it and save your outrage for a minute, because I'm going to come back to what exactly I mean when I say normal in a little bit. But for lack of a better term, I'm saying that gay marriage is not normal, and the fact that this text is written to pretend that it is by having a section that talks about her wife. You'll notice that when they do this sort of thing, they're a lot more likely to talk about her wife than they are his husband, because they know that our culture's they know that our culture has grown up watching Skinamax flicks about girl on girl, where the same dominant culture block that enjoys those things is disgusted by the idea of guy on guy. There are people who like guy on guy, obviously, but they are nowhere near as much of a social mainstream because gynocentrism is a thing, and just because of the inherent inclinations of the typical male libido versus the typical female libido. The greater inherent tendency toward xenophobia, etc., etc. We'll not go down that whole rabbit hole at this time. Just take it as read for now. So, my point is they bring up her wife in an attempt to present this as normal. The postmodernist approach is very much about trying to construct a new reality while completely disregarding all traces of the old reality and assuming that it has no value and should be discarded post-haste without an instance of hesitation. And so the reason I bring all this up is that if you can, if you can tell a story about a woman and her wife, then why can't you tell a story about a woman and her husband who is female? And if you can do that, then why can't you tell a story about a Sparglix and its Nequad who is Waxaboon? So if you're just going to change the meanings of words and make stuff up out of whole cloth without any reference to what is going before, then you very quickly just degenerate into complete nonsense, which is the whole point of those words I made up. It is possible for a sufficiently talented storyteller to construct a compelling narrative about a Sparglix and its Nequad, but it's a lot easier for the average storyteller to construct a compelling narrative about a husband and his wife, because those terms actually mean something to us and we've grown up understanding them, and we have a huge cultural lexicon to draw upon when comprehending them. And so if you're going to make stuff up that lies outside of that, you are inherently throwing away some of your tools, and it's going to be a lot harder for you to do a good job. It's like trying to create the best sculpture ever versus trying to create the best sculpture ever without using a chisel. If there's no reason for you to throw the chisel away, then you shouldn't throw the chisel away. The chisel is useful. Use it if it is useful. If it isn't useful, keep it around for the possibility of later use. And the postmodernists are not satisfied with presenting alternatives to normativity. They want to destroy normativity, and that is what I have a problem with. If you just want to present occasional alternatives and say there's nothing wrong with them, that's fine, but the postmodernists believe in this slippery slope fallacy that says that if you allow a thing to remain normal, then it will inevitably oppress the thing that is not normal. And so now I'm coming back to the word normal, and I'm going to finish that conversation on this subject. So when you say something is normal, you are not automatically saying that anything that is not normal is bad. It is a ridiculous assertion to think that the one thought follows automatically from the other. You are not, the very existence of normal people by my definition or your definition or the commonly accepted general definition of the majority is not inherently a condemnation of anything that lies outside of that norm. The fact that so many people are able to take it that way automatically just indicates that those people are mentally unsound. That is not a judgment, that is a diagnosis of the fact that there is something about those people which makes it inherently impossible for them to ever have a happy, well-rounded, well-balanced life. The more that you give a person in that condition what they want, the more they will want, the more they will demand to have. And I speak from a certain amount of personal experience on this point. I'm not exactly mentally stable myself. I know something about having an insatiable demand that can never be filled. So, I have tendencies towards outright solipsism, which I have to consciously fight back against because they feel very natural to me because I am, without a question, mentally ill and have been diagnosed as such. For many years before I got the diagnosis, I was walking around in the world thinking I was normal, and in fact I was not. A lot of heartache could have been avoided if I had known that I wasn't normal a lot sooner, and there are a lot of people out there who don't want to accept that they're normal because they've been taught that normal is bad, but the people who are teaching them are just as unstable themselves. And this is, the lunatics have been running the asylum for like 2 solid generations right now. That is what postmodernism is and has always been, and that is why it is so incredibly dangerous. It is not... I don't say that to put down people who genuinely believe postmodernist ideals. You have a right to believe a thing that is not true. People who believe that there's an invisible father in the sky, for them have a right to believe that is true, but it becomes a problem when they start indoctrinating children to believe the same thing, and to disregard things like science, which contradict that assertion, but are more valuable and more inherently load-bearing than that assertion. So, when we look at the degree of entitlement and narcissism that is present in so many of the people today, it should be clearly obvious that these people are not happy and they're not actually enjoying getting their way. They're just throwing an ever more unsustainable series of temper tantrums and refusing to be satisfied with anything whatsoever because they've gotten their way so many times that they don't know how to deal with not getting their way. And it is ultimately to those people's benefit. I'm not saying to put them in a re-education camp or anything like that. I'm saying those people need to be embraced with a compassionate form of treatment where, the phrase tough love is bandied around a little too much in my opinion, but that's kind of the idea. It's the idea that you look past what someone says they want and figure out what they really need, even if they actively think they don't want that, and give them a chance to experience what they. I want to be very careful because this sort of thing can definitely go wrong very easily. But if your objective is to help people legitimately and truly, you can't fake it. If you want to help people, embracing them and showing them what they're missing out on is a reasonable way of going about it. And so if you're saying they're not normal, that's not bad. It's okay to be weird, but it is not okay to pretend that weird is normal and normal is weird. So, I'm just saying, let's, we are failing our generations, and we've produced an unsustainable false reality, and coronavirus is a good example of why. I always have to bring that in sooner or later. The fact that so many people are not willing to trust their immune system to defend themselves against a virus that is known to have a 99% survival rate. This is what happens when people don't have a sense of reality that they can count on. A sense of normalcy is a structural scaffold which supports the weight that a person needs in order to be able to walk around in the world, and trying to get along without a sense of normality is like trying to walk on broken legs and then go around breaking the legs of other people because you find the mere existence of non-broken legs to be a challenge and an insult. So that's what we need to not allow. So when we're saying it's okay to be not normal, but you have to acknowledge that you're not normal. And so that's what that means. It is not about hurting people, it is about preventing people from hurting others.